From the heart of the Vatican, a spectacle unfolded that left many speechless. An official event, but with a pagan ritual feel. An event eerily reminiscent of the Pachamama's past with Pope Francis. All this, but in the Paolo VI Hall, under the gaze of Pope Leo. Have we really reached the point of no return for the Catholic Church? Stay with us until the end. In the last few hours, news has come from the Vatican that is sparking discussion throughout the Catholic world. The celebrations for the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate, the Second Vatican Council document dedicated to dialogue with other religions, have concluded. But more than a moment of theological reflection, the event became a symbol of the doctrinal confusion that has long been creeping into the sacred palaces. Pope Leo presided over the ceremony, which culminated in a series of performances with an interreligious tone that raised doubts even among the most moderate. This all comes just days after the scandal of the Muslim prayer rug displayed at the Vatican museums, an episode that many have interpreted as a clear sign of the growing mix of symbols and spiritual languages foreign to Catholic tradition. The overall impression is that of a church that, in attempting to appear open and welcoming to all, risks losing awareness of its own identity. Instead of witnessing the truth of Christ to the world, he seems to want to adapt to the world itself, with an enthusiasm that worries more than it reassures. 60 years ago, in the midst of the Second Vatican Council, the document Nostra Aetate was born with the intention of initiating dialogue between the Catholic Church and other religions. At the time, it was presented as a gesture of charity and understanding, aimed at promoting peace and mutual understanding. However, over the decades, that text that was meant to unite has often ended up dividing, becoming the starting point for interpretations that have progressively diluted the meaning of Catholic truth. This year's celebration, intended as a tribute to that message, instead showed how the contemporary church now seems more interested in the language of the world than in that of the gospel. In official words and gestures, a certain nostalgia for universal harmony has been perceived, which, however, risks being built at the expense of faith. The desire to dialogue with all has transformed into a fear of proclaiming Christ as the only Redeemer. Thus, while celebrating the anniversary of a text intended to bring people together, the impression has been given of distancing ourselves even further from the very heart of Catholicism. The ceremony, held in the Paolo VI Hall, offered a spectacle that can hardly be described as Catholic. The colored lights, the almost pop-like music, and the videos projected on the screens gave the celebration the feel of a media event rather than a solemn religious commemoration. The images showed smiling faces, dances and songs that mixed Christian symbols with references to other spiritual traditions. Many of the faithful present felt a sense of bewilderment, as if the altar had become a stage and faith a generic message of unity and good feelings. The very architecture of the Paolo VI Hall, often criticized for its cold, modern feel, seemed to accentuate this gap between form and substance, between what the Church is called to preserve and what it now seems to want to display. Instead of breathing a sense of the sacred, there was a vague, collective emotion, devoid of the depth that comes only from recognizing the living presence of Christ. The most controversial moment of the celebration was undoubtedly the African performance dedicated to the so-called Mother of Africa. On stage, ritual dances and traditional songs intertwined with Christian liturgical gestures, creating an atmosphere suspended between the sacred and the profane. The text of the prayer, written for the occasion by Guinean Vatican radio journalist Filomeno Lopez, invoked the supreme God, but defined him as the God of the ancestors. Then, the figure of Mama Lucy emerged, presented as an African and universal mother, a sort of incarnation of Mother Earth who was entrusted with the love letter from God, written, so it was said, on her lap. The rite then asked for peace, with the help of the divine and the ancestors, and addressed the dead directly, with words that sounded like a pagan prayer. My dear ancestors, honor and glory to you. Many have seen in all this not an act of cultural openness, but a form of religious syncretism that risks replacing the revealed God with a vague spiritual principle where creator and creature are confused. Then, during the celebration of the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate, Pope Leo surprised many with words that immediately sparked a wave of discussion. In his official speech, the pontiff affirmed that all religions are mothers, and that as such, they should teach people to treat each other as members of the same family, not as enemies. A poetic language, certainly, but loaded with theological implications that cannot be ignored. The image of mother religions suggests a sort of universal spiritual motherhood, in which every faith becomes a source of life, protection, and wisdom for humanity. However, in Catholic doctrine, spiritual motherhood belongs to the Church alone, the mystical body of Christ, generator of new children in baptism, and guardian of divine revelation. These words of Leo do not come out of nowhere. They ambiguously take up the vision already expressed by his predecessor. During an interreligious meeting in Singapore, Francis declared that all religions are ways to reach God, comparing them to different languages to express the divine. That sentence, which remained without official clarification, then caused profound dismay among the faithful because it seemed to place the revealed truth of Christ on the same level as human beliefs born from other spiritual contexts. Now, with the new image of the mother religions, the impression is that a symbolic and theological journey is being completed. From paths that lead to God to mothers who generate life, each religion is placed in an almost equal relationship with the Church, as if Christianity were no longer the definitive revelation, but one voice among many. Among the faithful present in the Vatican and in the comments that followed the celebration, the discontent was evident. Many Catholics, especially those attached to tradition, have expressed a sense of bewilderment and even pain. This is not a sterile or polemical dissent, but the spontaneous reaction of those who recognize that something profound is changing in the life of the Church. The widespread impression is that the Catholic faith, once a rock and certain point of reference, is becoming one of many spiritual options in a world dominated by relativism. In the corridors, among priests and laity, there was talk of doctrinal confusion, of increasingly vague language, of a dialogue that does not evangelize but adapts, forgetting that the Church's mission is to lead men to Christ, not simply to accompany them wherever they decide to go. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment, I'm in. God bless you.